Hello and welcome to Americans Learn. My name is Lauren, and today I am looking at Lost in the Pond once again. It's been a while since I've done a Lost in the Pond video, but, you know, I like Lawrence. I still watch his videos on my own, but it's been a while since I've done one here. But this one is a newer video, it looks like. We're talking about American coyotes, which I'm curious to see how they're different than other kinds of coyotes. I don't know. I guess if I've ever thought about it, I hadn't really considered coyotes to be elsewhere, I suppose. I know there's a lot of like random flora and fauna that like exists in America only, and it always just kind of blows my mind. Like Europe or like England or whatever, like they don't have like bears. And it's just like, oh, huh. So I'm curious to see why we're talking about American coyotes today specifically and how they differ from coyotes around the world. Again, Lawrence lives here in Chicago as well, so it's always nice to be like, oh, hey, look, fellow Chicagoan, even if he's not originally from here. I like to see his take on things, especially as someone who's been living in this country for like 12 years or something now. It's always curious. I'm always curious about that kind of thing and like the differences, like the little differences that I wouldn't normally think of, which is why I like his show, because it's about the little differences that you wouldn't normally think of as being hugely different. Let's go.
Hello, I'm Lawrence, and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to animals. Specifically, animals I only encountered after moving to the United States.
And one such animal is the coyote.
From ransacking chicken coops to stealing household pets, coyotes, much like raccoons, seem to be disliked by most Americans that I speak to. So why is that, apart from the fact that they ransack chicken coops and steal household pets?
Well, in today's video, I'm going to sink my own teeth into this very topic and perhaps dispel one or two myths about an animal that almost looks like a household pet itself.
And so, if you want to become a member of the pack...
Is it because something Looney Tunes, we're primed to not like coyotes because of Wile E. Coyote? Even though I feel like that would make us more primed to just feel sorry for him, honestly.
And haven't had a chance to subscribe to this channel, do that now. In the meantime, let's take a look at what the Quincy Gazette calls a glorified wolf.
Glorified
Well, I
wolf?
mostly like to live in the present. Allow me to take you back in time to 40 seconds ago when I said this. Specifically, animals I only encountered after moving to the United States.
And one such animal is the coyote.
When I spoke those words, I'm ashamed to admit I completely and utterly lied a little bit.
Because while they are indeed only found in North America, a single coyote was once introduced into the British television wilderness by the name of Wile E. Coyote. Indeed, as a child and sometimes later as a
so they
human,
are only American. Like, okay, that's what I thought. I thought the coyotes were from North America. I'm glad to know that like, sometimes I have little bits of trivia that are just in my head, and I don't know where I heard them or where I learned that information, but I like believe, but I'm like, but this is true. It's a true fact. And then it turns out that I was a little bit off, or sometimes it turns out I was 100% right, but then I get confused.
Nothing more than to watch this maniacal canine plunge to his death after briefly defying Newton's first law of motion.
Back then, I had no idea what a coyote was or whether they were predisposed to using TNT explosives. All I knew was that I liked TV from across the pond. And that same sentence is still true now that I live here. So how does somebody like me safely consume his favourite Channel 4 programmes like Naked Attraction while living in America?
Well, I've got 4 words for you. NordVPN. Actually, that's just one word. NordVPN is a virtual private network that, among other things, allows me to access my favourite television shows even when I'm in another country.
And the good news is, I feel safe doing so, even though I'm watching a show about nude people. And that's because I'm watching it for an anthropology class, but also because of NordVPN's threat protection.
Threat protection scans and removes malware.
It also blocks malicious websites, stops web trackers, and removes annoying ads, as opposed to deeply invigorating brand partnerships.
If you sign up at nordvpn.com/pond, NordVPN is your oyster. Here's why. Every purchase of the 2-year plan will
I feel like you could have chosen a better picture of oysters there. Some of them I've had some oysters that looked really, really good. And those do not look super, super great.
See 4 bonus months on top. An offer that extends to all plans, standard, plus, and complete.
And if, like me, you're the sort of person that puts things off until the last minute, don't.
Because right now, 2-year purchases also come with an additional 3 months of service in the form of a coupon.
Y'all might still be able to get that one if you go to his website and look in his description box. We'll link it in our, we'll link his video in our description box. But this video came up pretty recently, so you might actually be able to get a hold of this one.
You could gift NordVPN to a friend or family member, or you could keep it for yourself, which is what I do.
Remember, head to nordvpn.com/pon to get your exclusive offer. The link is in my description below.
Throughout this video so far, you've heard me say the word coyote 6 times.
And one such animal is the coyote.
Coyotes.
A single coyote of Wile E. Coyote.
No idea what a coyote was. You've heard me say the word coyote 6 times. And on each of those occasions, I never fail to pronounce it with 3 syllables. But as I discovered this week, my fellow Americans don't always follow suit.
In a poll.
Oh, are you talking about coyotes? Is he talking about, because I mean, I always thought it was coyote, but I've heard coyotes.
Posted to my YouTube community section, more than 30,000 respondents told me how they
Wow.
pronounce it. Coyote or coyote. Curiously, more than 10% went with the second option. These results were more or less mirrored by the same poll on X, formerly known as Twitbook.
So what's going on?
Twitbook.
Well, according to some of the comments beneath the poll, coyote is reserved for 2 things.
Number 1, some Americans might opt for the dismissive 2-syllable approach when another pesky coyote has gotten into the barn again. And number 2, coyote appears to just be the predominant pronunciation out west.
Oh, and speaking of that part of the world,
In 2024, the coyote range map is oddly similar to that of the bald eagle, my video about whom I will link to at the end.
in fact, this is true right down to the fact that, like America's national bird, coyotes can be found in every state except Hawaii. But as recently as 1900, this was by no means the case.
Back then, coyotes barely carried any states east of the Mississippi, charting an obvious path to victory for beagles in that year's canine presidential election. But just as
Okay.
human pioneers had headed west in the previous century, coyotes did the exact opposite in the 20th century.
Reasons for this are hotly debated, but animal scientists agree that coyotes have no interest in panning for gold. Hi, dog. Instead,
Shock.
their expansion likely owes much to the following factors.
Firstly, the significant decline of its predators like wolves, but also cougars, pumas, mountain lions, catamounts, and panthers.
I'm being told those are different words for the exact same animal. What a country.
During that same period, cougars and wolves went from inhabiting almost all US states to merely a handful.
Not only did this reduce attacks on
I feel like that, some of them I think are the same animal, but some of them aren't. So like, just to make things extra complicated, of like all of the big cats or like the semi-big cats, there's a couple of names that are kind of interchangeable and a couple that aren't, and I'm like, I don't remember which ones are not, but maybe I'll find a Casual Geographic video to link in this video where I learned that information.
coyotes, but opened up their food source.
Another highly suggested factor for coyote expansion is the deforestation of the United States. In the 300 years between the Mayflower and Prohibition, the nation's forested lands went from this to this.
And
Ugh.
while your reaction to that graphic was probably along the lines of, that's f***ing awful, 94% of coyotes responded favorably to it in focus groups.
And that's because historically, coyotes sought out agricultural landscapes like those of the Great Plains. Of course, that's not to say coyotes don't dwell in forests. In fact, they're well known for their remarkable adaptability, with some even showing up in major cities.
In fact, it was under
We've seen a couple here. There was, I mean, there's like that famous picture of, right, like in the initial days of the shutdown, where like just a coyote walking straight down, I think it was walking down Milwaukee, like just straight down the middle of the street in downtown Chicago.
that precise circumstance that I saw one for the first and so far only time.
4 years ago, a few weeks before Illinois went into lockdown, I was still living in a 500 square foot apartment in uptown Chicago. Just outside our door was a metal fence, a chain link fence, and a can.
I mean, like, I am looking at this building, the side of this building. I'm like, yes, that does look like the side of quite a few buildings near where I live. And I'm just trying to, I'm trying to see if I can get a glimpse of maybe where he was living, if I can figure out the street. Probably not.
Except for all of the times that my wife turned me into an Instagram husband, not much ever happened here.
That is until precisely February 6th, 2020, approximately.
For it was on that very day that a coyote had somehow got itself trapped between the fences in question.
Yikes.
Feeling helpless, I made a beeline for my phone. But unfortunately for the poor animal, a dead battery meant I wasn't able to get film footage of the stricken creature. This is because, in a moment of weakness, my wife put the animal's welfare before amazing content and freed the coyote
Tisk, tisk.
who ran off down an alley.
And I know what you're thinking. Ooh, Lawrence!
I mean, that might have been dangerous for her, too. Good lord.
If this is a true story, why on earth would you remember the exact date? I didn't. I just ran an advanced Twitter search this morning for the keyword coyote and realised that I'd commemorated the incident that day in a tweet.
Great. That's funny. Gotta love Twitter. I don't think I've ever seen a coyote in person, though. I've seen a lot, like a bobcat, I've seen some weird animals. I've seen brown recluse spiders. I've seen a black widow. I don't think I've ever seen a coyote. I've seen buffalo. Trying to remember all the weird animals I've seen that exist like only in North America. Not too many. I've lived a lot of life in various like cityscapes. And so it's like, and like even the woods that I spent a lot of time in didn't have like dangerous animals in them. They had deer, I've seen opossums, and I've seen foxes, and I've seen all like raccoons and skunks, hedgehogs, but only in like pet hedgehog form, not in wild hedgehog form. And I am trying to think of things like outside of zoos too, like porcupines I've seen at zoos, but
The point is, coyotes, like my wife's cousin Chad, can cause problems in urban areas. In fact, Fred from down the street warned me
throw Chad right under that bus, sir.
last spring that coyotes had been spotted roaming the streets of my current residence. Having adopted a puppy in that time, should I heed Fred's warning not to take him for a walk at night? The dog, not Fred. It's time to look at the facts.
When I first moved to the United States, I'm not ashamed to admit I feared America's dangerous animals might end up killing me in half.
The animals that
I've
feared
seen
most
alligators.
were bears, black widows, and any animal that looked like it could kill a deer.
But much to my surprise, it turns out that coyotes, who do indeed feed on deer, are generally fearful of humans. To the extent that there have only been 2 recorded instances of fatal coyote attacks in the history of North America's history. In fact, with an annual kill count of 200. The biggest human killer outside of domestic dogs and humans themselves is, what do you know? Deer. But more on that.
Shocking. I mean, I think that's has to do more with like the like they cause deaths by getting hit by cars. I will say I've had 2 instances with deer that are scary for my life, and one of them was we were driving out of this wooded area. We were going pretty slow, but it came out of nowhere and it slammed into the side of our car, and I'd been looking out the window, and I don't know what kind of luck was like on my side on that day, but like instinct maybe, just I turned my head because and I'm really, really glad I turned my head to the side, because the front window, and I was sitting right behind the driver's seat, so the driver's seat window and my seat, both of the windows were completely shattered. And because we did have some forward motion, the glass from both windows like went like shot like onto me, and like I got cut a little bit like behind my ear, but I turned my face away. I was like covered in glass. It's like I was like 7. I still don't like sitting behind the driver's seat of a car. Like I still hate it. And then there was another time, and the deer just kind of bounced off and ran away, and I guess it was fine. And then another time, it was on the news at our in our area, like a deer had like shattered the window of like this big window in front of the school, and like went on a complete rampage within the school building itself. It like broke a couple doors, and like it like animal control had to be called middle of the school day. Like I don't know, it was people sometimes they're surprised when you know, they talk about deer being a killer. It's like, I mean, they can be scary, like, even if you're not talking about them hitting your car. Also, there's Lyme's disease and stuff, but
some other time.
But it is true that coyotes go after smaller animals. On occasion, this can include household pets like cats and dogs.
However, there's something to keep in mind. They are highly
Puppy.
unlikely to do this if that pet is accompanied by a human. Fred from down the street, I
human.
hope you're watching. For extra
Why did he make Fred look like Mobius from Loki show?
insurance, if you do encounter a coyote, be sure to make yourself big while making a loud noise. You might get heavily judged by suburban Sue, but the coyote will likely scarper, which is British slang for run away.
That said, there have been numerous cases of coyotes stealing pets from people's yards. And not even a gate like this one ensures that they won't trespass, with coyotes often capable of jumping them. And my non-American subscribers might be thinking, wait, so do most Americans just have 20-foot high fences? And the answer to that is no, except for suburban Sue.
Does that mean then that every homeowner is constantly having to make themselves big while making a loud noise?
Again, no, that's Bruce Banner.
While some states, like Texas, have a higher coyote concentration than others, your average and sometimes below average American doesn't have to deal with them all.
That is the saddest looking picnic. Does that kid have just a full, like a pepper on his plate? What are these folks eating? I'm judging this really hard right now. Like, the set designer of this particular thing, it's like, I guess he's got like sparkling water with some lemon in it. Parents have got wine glasses, but like, there's just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little loaves of bread. One loaf of bread is huge. An empty dish here in the center. This red one is empty. And then this like charcuterie board that looks like it's got like a bunch of like heirloom tomatoes and is that like an avocado? No, what is that? Just some lettuce, some kind of grassy thing sticking straight up. A couple of blocks of cheese. There's milk or something sitting right here on the table. This is... And they're all sitting around the table eating this. Like, anything on this particular spread could be eaten. It would just be munchies, right? While you wait for the actual food. Did aliens design this set?
All that often.
Sorry, that like totally irrelevant to anything that's going on in the in the show right now, but I'm just like, I am flabbergasted. 2 empty bottles of some kind of drink in this green bottle. It doesn't look like a wine bottle specifically, but like just 2 empty bottles. We got this like water pitcher maybe that's also filled with something green, like leaves. I'm like, and this guy looks like he's got half a potato just sitting on his plate. I'm like, what? Anyway, sorry. I just like, sometimes the weird things I know, and they have a telescope. Is that a telescope sitting in the back? What is this set? Outside, and they have like the little like an actual set dressing, like they put out like a centerpiece. The more I look at this image, the more confused I get about what the hell is going on. What is happening? They have a table runner. Anyway, okay.
At least this has been the case for me, but just as I do with my niece during a visit to the candy aisle at Walgreens, it's important to stay vigilant.
This is especially important because coyotes can carry various diseases and parasites, some of which can be transferred to your pet.
But in the interest of a happy ending, here's Curious George, who's politely
Hi.
agreed to be sacrificed if it will save the life of my dog.
Thanks, Curious George.
If I've learned anything from this video, it is that coyotes would not make good household pets. They might boast the physical cuteness of my dog Arthur, but they will stop at nothing in their quest for food. A bit like Arthur. And if you're a fan of my animal content, it is your patriotic duty to watch this video about bald eagles next. Until the next video, goodbye.
Goodbye. I've seen the one about bald eagles. Okay, that was fun. Okay, that was fun. And I'm sorry that I went on like a total like rampage there. But occasionally like I've worked in enough in enough film sets and this doing set dressing and like making like the scene make sense, that when I see stuff like that, it really, really throws me. Like I get really confused. um but anyway, I enjoyed that video regardless of the funky the weird thing in the middle there. I'm glad that I was confirmed that in fact coyotes are only found in North America, which is what I thought. So I'm glad I wasn't wrong about that. And you know, if you want to see more stuff from Lawrence, let me know. Like I said, I enjoy his videos, and I do tend to watch a lot of them on my own as well. There, I'm making liking, subscribing. Make sure you like and subscribe to here as well if you want to see more stuff like this. And let me know what I should look at next. I will see you all in the next video.